Hi, everyone. Welcome to this workshop. Get rid of your parenting worries and boost your parenting summer energy. My name is Julie Friedman Smith, and I'm really, really glad that you're here today. We have some people joining us live for this call, and a number of other people I know are hoping to pop in and or be getting this on the replay. So I'll begin just by sharing that I don't know where you're coming in from, but where I'm presenting from, um, I know that this land has been looked after for thousands of years by knowledge keepers and land keepers and story keepers and song keepers of the Indigenous people. And I'm really grateful for the care that they have taken of our land, and I am committed to learning more about and from the Indigenous people who live here now. And I invite you to join me in making that commitment wherever you live as well. So here's how we're going to spend this evening. First of all, I'm going to take you through an exercise that I've done myself and that I often do with my clients. Um, and you get to decide how deeply you want to participate in this. So you may keep it quite surface level. You might go a little bit deeper. When we're talking about parenting, it can get pretty judgmental in our heads. There's a lot of emotions that come along. And so I want you to take it at a speed that makes sense for you. And any of the information, I'm going to ask you some questions. There's going to be some writing to be done. It's not need to be shared with any of us. Um, and you may not even choose to write it down. You may choose to just do some thinking in your head. So take it at a pace that makes sense for you. Um, and just before we get started on that, in case you don't know me, I've been working with parents for the last 23 years. I've been, of course, working with parents before that because I was a teacher for many years. But about 23 years ago, I began working as a parenting coach, a parenting expert in the media, and have done a lot, have had the opportunity to work with a lot of families one-on-one or through the media, through the book that my business partner and I wrote together, and really work to help parents create the family harmony that you want without having to change who you are or who your kids are. And it's important that what you know, one other thing that you know about me is that I am less focused on the style of parenting that you use. You'll notice in this bookshelf behind me, there are all sorts of different parenting books and parenting methods. I'm really more about helping you figure out how to get where you want to go in a way that works for you and your family. So that's a little bit about me. I'm happy to tell you more about me if you have any questions. Let's take a moment, and I just invite you to take your tongue and just rest it on the floor of your mouth. And as you do that, you might feel that you want to just take a breath. So let's just take a breath together and sigh it out. And if you're somewhere where you don't mind making noise, you might even make a bigger sigh. So we can take another breath. Great. So we're really coming to a place where we can kind of leave some of the evening and the day behind us and spend a little time together. So the first part of this evening, we're going to work through the series of questions that I have for you that are going to help us to have an understanding of some of the ways that our energy is getting trapped in the ways we're thinking, in the things we're telling ourselves, the stories we're telling ourselves, and how we can free up that energy to give us more energy for the parenting that we really want to do. And then the second part of today, I'm going to share 5 tips that is going to make your parenting easier, hopefully to set you up well for the summer holidays that are coming along. But really, these tips that I share are things that we can certainly apply all the time in our parenting. I would love to have you just before we get started, I'd love to have you pop into the chat the ages of the kids that you're parenting. Um, these these strategies that I'm going to share with you and this process that I'm going to share with you will work for parents whose kids are any age, but I wanna make sure that, especially in the second part, that I'm sharing tools for you that are really gonna fit the age of the kids that you're parenting and give you examples that are gonna fit that. So I'll invite you to do that when you get a chance. And as we head into this first exercise, I'll invite you to consider the following. There are kind of four places where I'm curious if you're willing to do this, and the answers to these questions can remain in your head, and they'll give you a clear understanding of how you want to approach these next few questions that I'm going to ask you. So I invite you to consider your willingness to be wrong about something. I invite you to consider your willingness to be curious, curious about your thoughts, curious about your feelings, curious about the information you're being given. I invite you to consider your willingness to be vulnerable. And again, you don't need to be vulnerable with me, but you might need to be vulnerable with yourself. And your willingness to live in a little bit of discomfort as we take a look at things that may feel uncomfortable. And you get to drive this event, so you get to decide how far into this you want to go. So let's begin. And if you have a pen or a paper that you can write on, feel free. But if you just want to spend a little bit of time thinking about these ideas, feel free. I'm going to ask each of these questions. It's a series of questions, and each question really leads to the next. And as I ask you these questions, I'm going to repeat them twice, and then I'm going to stay silent for a minute, minute and a half to give you a chance to just see what flows beyond your very first impression. So take some time and then I'll give you a warning before I move on to the next question. So all of these questions are framed around your parenting. And so the first question is this: when you think about your parenting, what is a dominating thought that is tormenting you or draining your energy? So the question again, when you think about your parenting, what is a dominating thought that is tormenting you or draining your energy? Give you a minute or two to think about that. Just in case this first question feels a little daunting, some of the ones that parents will often share with me, not that this has to be yours, but are things like, I don't like the relationship between myself and my child. I don't like my child. My child is doing this to get at me. My child is so mean to me. If I were a better parent, this would not be happening. These are some of the thoughts that I have had. These are some of the thoughts that my parenting clients have shared with me as we've done this exercise as well. Take about another 30 seconds. So Liliana, I see that your hand is raised. If you want to unmute and ask a question, feel free.
Lily and I, Oscar,
And Oscar, we are both
we're
together.
both together
Oh,
taking
great.
the class. Yeah.
Great.
And it's so great to see you again.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
No, I mean, I don't know if we're sharing thoughts or just,
Oh, you know what? I would love for you to not share yet. And just in a little bit, I will ask for a share. But I'd really like to keep the first part of this somewhat internal so that we can kind of stay in the process. So if you can hold off, there will be a chance to share, but not just right at this point. Awesome. Okay. So we've thought about a dominating thought. And question 2 is this. When you are tormented by that thought, when you are thinking this thought, possibly over and over again, how do you feel? And again, there's no right answers here. You can write this down in point form. You can write this down in, you don't even need to write it down. What are the feelings that come up when you are thinking this thought? So I'll give about 10 more seconds for you to notice the feelings that come up as a result of this thought. So here's the third question. How does this feeling or these feelings have an impact on how you are showing up in your parenting? So how does this feeling impact how you are showing up in your parenting? And maybe it impacts how you're showing up towards your kids in your parenting. Maybe it has an impact on how you're showing up towards your partner or your parenting partner, your co-parent, the other people that you're parenting with. So that's the question. And I'll give it a couple of minutes. And Lori, I see that you've just joined the call, and welcome. You're fine to stay muted just now. We're in the middle of an exercise here. So Lori, I'll just bring you up to speed. And you're welcome to join into this exercise in a way that feels right for you. So we're on question number 3. So I'll share all 3 questions with you and just give you a moment to think about those questions. So question number 1 is, when you think about your parenting, what is a dominating thought that is tormenting you or draining your energy? The answers to these questions are completely for you. You don't need to share them with us at all. You can write them down. You can keep them in your head. What is a dominating thought that is tormenting you or draining your energy? And the second question related to that, and I hate to rush you through it, so take the time you need, is when you are tormented by that thought, how do you feel? And then the third part, which is where we all are right now, is how does this feeling impact how you are showing up in your parenting? How does this feeling impact how you are showing up in your parenting? How you're showing up for your kids, how you're showing up in interactions with your partner or with your co-parent. So that's where we are right now. So take that slowly, because It's not the easiest, those are not the easiest questions to answer, but that's really brings you up to speed of where we are. So thank you to everybody for your patience as we just reviewed those questions. So we've talked about this thought, we've talked about the feelings that stem from this thought, and how the feelings are really impacting the way you're showing up. And question number 4 is, if nothing changes, then what will happen? So if you continue to have these thoughts, if you change nothing else, you continue to have these feelings, if you continue to show up in this way, then what will happen? I'll give you a minute to contemplate that. And then maybe we can just talk about some of, I can share with you a version of uh, a situation that I went through in my own life in answering these questions. And if anybody wants to share, you're welcome to do that too. And then we'll find a way forward. So we'll just let that minute go past. So feel free to keep writing if there's more coming up for you. And let me just share with you a little bit of of one of these situations um, in my own life. And then if any of you would like to share your thoughts or your anything that you'd like to share from this, but we'll make time for that. One of the dominating thoughts for me, and of course, everybody's at a different stage of their parenting, but a number of years ago when my son was in the teenage years, um, and I know I'm not alone in this because I've talked to lots of families, both peers as well as clients in this, but my son was really, really, really treating me in a very mean way. And he saved the worst for me, as they so often do. And I would have these thoughts of, I can't believe he doesn't love me anymore. He's being so mean to me. How did I raise a child that could be this mean? I can't believe he doesn't care about all of the past that we had. How can he not even love me anymore? And that felt horrible and sad. And yeah, it was very easy to get very sad and very stuck in those feelings. And the impact that it had on how I showed up in my parenting was I didn't want to interact with him because more often than not, when I interacted with him, I got hurt. I felt really, when I saw him being polite to everybody else except for me, I actually felt even more hurt. So I didn't want to hang out with him. I didn't want to watch what was going on in his life. And so I really wasn't showing up in a very kind way towards him. And I hated that because we had had a really, really strong relationship prior to that. And I felt really sad and quite grieving the relationship that we had that we didn't have during that time. So that's kind of where I was, and I really needed to figure out how I could change that. And I will share with you as we move through the rest how I changed it and what kind of things I put in place. But that was just an example from me. Now, I don't know if anybody wants to share, but if you do want to share, you're welcome to unmute and share any of the experiences, especially about the thoughts. I think some of those thoughts that we feel are so personal are ones that really a lot of us as parents are experiencing at the same time. So I just noticed you unmuting there. So if you wanted to share, you're welcome to do that. Hi.
So yeah, it's with my son. We have a daughter, 15 years old. My
Yeah.
son is 13. that with my son is the feelings is frustration. Oh no, the first one is thoughts. It's because he's complaining quite often,
Mhm.
and whatever we're saying, not whatever, but most of the time, he's improving. Actually, he's getting better. But most of the time, we're doing saying, okay, we're gonna go for groceries. Oh, how come? We gotta stop. Could you drop me off to the to a place and then you by yourself go for groceries? Say, man, it's gonna take me 30 minutes more. So then next thing, we're gonna make for dinner, whatever, eggs. So it's a constant complaining for everything, or most of the things, not everything, but
Mhm.
many things and quite often. So those are the thoughts. Is eh, for something like how can I say it? Um,
I
eh,
think we're not getting everything that you're saying. I think you're cutting out or cutting in and out because I think we're missing some of what you're saying.
oh, oh, could you hear me better?
Yes, I can. And so you were saying that your son is really complaining about a lot of things. What are the kinds of thoughts that are happening for you as a result of this?
My thoughts is frustration because you gotta be able to accept the stuff and be doing a feedback, a constant feedback for it in order to improve or learn, no? But when you are complaining and rejecting, you're just not learning and getting better. Those are my thoughts and my feelings is frustration.
Yeah.
So I don't want to get my son into this stubborn child because constantly we're not fighting, but uh, about everything is my concern.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I get that. And how does it impact how you're showing up to him? Like, do you feel like this feeling of frustration has an impact in the way that you're interacting with him?
because I'm more sensitive because it's constant, and then in the mornings it's getting breakfast and it's something happening, and then now it's kind of a trigger like oh, but for something minimal like a matter for me it's lower. My threshold now are lower.
Hmm. Hmm.
I'm trying to keep calm, but sometimes it's I don't know,
It's really hard.
I have to improve as well because. And the other thing is, my daughter is 15 and she's so mature and calm
Yep.
that expecting too much from my son. And he is a boy, he's more immature. That situation is creating more stress on me, saying, well, what? I'm not never comparing. And I think that I have never seen anything like that. Oh, your sister is better. No, I'm glad that I'm aware of it. But I don't know if my mind is setting it's thinking, well, my dad is behaving way better. Why my son doesn't? But
Yep. Yep. Fair.
I'm glad that I'm not bringing into it. Yeah.
Yeah, congratulations, because it's so tempting to just compare one to the other. Why can't you be more like? Why can't you be more like? So thank you for sharing that. It's a very familiar complaint. So mine was around my son being like 17, 18, but it started right when he was 15. I think it's a pretty normal thing. If I don't know if anybody else wants to share. I know actually, if anybody does, Lori, I see that you've unmuted. We have a moment or two for you to do that if you want to share.
Yeah, hi,
Hi.
Julie. Sure, I'll share mine is kind of similar to yours. My daughter, when she was going through a challenging time with some mental health issues, so now I have a whole new perspective actually on why she acted that way.
Sure.
But similar to the story that you were sharing with about your son, she would save her worst behavior for at home. So yeah, it made me feel angry a lot of the times
Yeah.
and frustrated. And it made it so that I didn't want to spend a lot of time with her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Which then made me feel bad too, right? Because I knew, I think even at that time, I knew that she was hurting. So
Mhm.
I knew that she actually wanted to spend time with me, even though she never would have said that. But still, because her behavior, her words were so nasty, I think it's just normal. Even if you are the parent, you don't want to spend time with someone who's being so nasty to you.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. Thank you for sharing that. And I hate to rush through this. I know both both of you were sharing such important things. And I know how much time we have, and I want to make sure that we can get to everything that I wanted to share tonight. So thank you for that share. So let's continue on then, moving through the rest of the questions that I have for you. The next question is, and so the last four questions were kind of about things that are actually happening, facts, things that we know to be true, or our experiences that we know to be true. The thoughts might not be true, but the experiences are true. Now I want you to, if you can, if you have the freedom to be a little curious, consider where you would like to be in your parenting. So question 5 is, where would you like to be in your parenting? Where would you like to be in your parenting? It's a pretty open question. I'll give you 40 seconds or something to think about, especially considering where you are now. Where would you like to be in your parenting? Yeah, so just a few more seconds there. Where would you like to be in your parenting? And then the next question is, how would you need to be showing up in order for that place to actually come true? So think about that place where you'd like to be in your parenting. How would you need to be showing up in order for that to come true? And the question that follows from that is, if you were showing up like that, how would you be feeling? You think about where you want to be in your parenting, how you would need to show up. If you showed up like that, how would you be feeling?
Sorry, Julie.
Yeah.
The last question or the last two,
Yes.
could you explain it better?
Sure, I will do that. And thank you for asking. I really appreciate your question. So, if you think about, for instance, you shared this idea that there's a lot of confrontation, your son is complaining, you're feeling frustrated, you want to bring, maybe the way you want to show up, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth at all, but maybe the way you want to show up is you want to show up and bring calm, a sense of calm. You want to have this really less confrontational relationship with your son. So you wish that you could just be present with him in a way that you could still pal around and you weren't so frustrated by his complaining all the time. So if that's where you wanted to be, how would you need to be showing up? How would you be? You'd show up and you'd feel like, I am full of patience. I've got this. And then the next question is, how would you be feeling? So you'd be like, I am calm, I can handle this. I am not letting this bring me down. I'm going to bring my best self to this. So that kind of feeling, what kind of feeling would you bring every day in order to be able to show up in that way of like you still going ahead and doing your parenting on a regular basis, regardless of the stuff that you're getting back from him?
Got it. Thank you. And sorry, let me answer that question pretty easy.
Yep.
And it's more wise or more mature because, well, but you want, anyways, no.
Okay, so yeah, you do that for you, and then we'll just get to the end of this. Because I still have these great tips that I want to share with you, and I want to make sure we get it all in the time. And so the last question is, what new thought would you need to be thinking in order to have that feeling? So what new thought needs to live in your mind so that when that tormenting thought comes in to bring you down, what new thought could you have to answer it back? And you might not know the thought, but I'm going to give you some examples in a minute. But can you think of the thought you would need to have that feeling, to show up the way you want to show up in the way that you want to be parenting, even if your kids' misbehavior continues? Now, a lot of these thoughts are the kinds of thoughts that I help parents with in the coaching that I do with them. Because the negative thoughts, those tormenting thoughts that just bring us down so much, are not necessarily true, but they're the thoughts that are linked with certain experiences. And so I'll give you an example. When we think that if we have this thought, my child is giving me a hard time, my child is giving me a hard time. And maybe that's the thought that you have with your son who's being so confrontational, or maybe, Lori, that's the thought that you had with your daughter who was being so mean. My child is giving me a hard time. And if we can switch our thought just a little bit, so if we can switch it from my child is giving me a hard time to my child is having a hard time, all of a sudden, things change. The energy changes. At least it does for me. And the reason it changes is because it goes from this malicious thing of this kid is out to get me, he's coming after me, or she's coming after me, she's giving me a hard time. And I'm in a victim place. And it's very hard when we're feeling in that victim place to spring forward with energy because we're feeling worn down. When we can shift that to my child is having a hard time, then we can step into this place of, oh, maybe my child needs my help. I need to figure out a way that I can help this child behave differently, talk to me in a different way, have a different experience. And so suddenly, if we can shift that thought, then when we start to hear those thoughts happening in our head, my child's giving me a hard time, we can answer back and say, or maybe my child's having a hard time. And once we have that happening, then we can shift the energy that we're bringing to our parenting. How do you feel about that?
Impressive, Julie. Sorry, I'm I'm talking and been talking again, but I cannot stop saying that was a blow mind thought,
Oh,
because
yeah.
yeah, we read a book. It's called Super Brain, and one of the things is mindfulness. And it's not just how I'm behaving. I know that my kid is being stressed. I am in stress, but I'm also creating the stress because
Yes.
I'm the reason of the stress. I
Yeah.
cannot say I cannot answer to any of those complaints, and they will be only stress from them. But then I'm adding my part into that fight, and I'm the main person who is trying, or who has to try to bring peace to the relationship. I'm 44. My son is 13. He's a boy. He's a kid. I'm a mature person. So having those thoughts is shifting everything in a
Good.
second, because I'm the parent. I'm the sample. I cannot bring. I shouldn't bring stress because he's on stress already.
Yeah, but let's not judge. You don't need to say you shouldn't bring, because whatever, you can only do what you know, right? So let's not judge you with the shoulds or the shouldn'ts. And we have the ability to shift our thoughts. And so thank you for sharing that. I really, really want to get to the other stuff that I wanted to share with you tonight, but I'm excited for you to be thinking about these changes, and I'm always here to support you in ways that you can be changing your thoughts and in finding new thoughts to better support you in better supporting your kids. So I'm glad that you were willing to go through that exercise. I find it to be a mind-blowing exercise, as you said. And so I really love sharing it with people, and I really wanted to share that. I also want to get into the practical tips that I have for summer. So we're just now going to do a little bit of switcheroo, and I'm going to share my screen with you. Hopefully this works. Yes, I think it is working. And I'm just going to take you through these 5 tips to make your summer easier. So I'm happy to talk with you further. So if the stuff that we just did is something that you want to talk about further, we can certainly do that. And I'll share with you at the end how we might do that together. But let's go on to these tips. So the first tip is really to be thinking about summertime. And it's interesting because we've got lots of different ages on this call, because Jacinth, you were mentioning that your kids go from 2 kind of up to 8. And then I know we've got these teenagers, and Lori, you're also in that higher end with your kids. So there's lots of different ages here. And the good news is that these tips really work for so many different ages. So I'm going to do my best to move through this stuff and get us out of here by 9 o'clock. And hopefully I can blow your mind again. But one mind-blowing treat is is a good thing. So we'll see how we go. Anyway, number 1 is that kids need structure. Now, regardless of the age of your child, if your child is going to any kind of care, any kind of schooling, if it's preschool, if it's daycare, if it's elementary school, middle school, high school, they have structure built into their day, even from the perspective of they get up in the morning, they get ready to go to school, they go to school, and they come home from school. But while they're at school, also, there's a ton of structure in their day. And summer is awesome because there isn't a lot of structure. But if we take away all the structure, then we are really doing our kids a disservice, and we're kind of doing ourselves a disservice as well. So it's really important to continue to build some structure into our kids' days. And calendars are really, really helpful for that. So you can print off calendars. I know for those of you with older kids that probably they have calendars on their phones or their computers or their iPads or whatever it is. My preference, and if you know me, you've heard me say this before, my preference is to get a paper calendar, print one off of your computer, stick it on the fridge, stick it in a high traffic area where your kids can see it. If your kids can't see it, it's not doing any good, because everything needs to be on there in terms of what's going on for each month. So maybe there's a piece of time where you're going away on vacation. Maybe there's a piece of time where relatives are coming to visit. Maybe your kids have jobs or they're volunteering, whatever it might be. Get the monthly stuff on there. You could also print off a weekly calendar, because we need to know what's happening in our day-to-day lives. Things like, what's the day that we go grocery shopping? Or when do chores need to be done? When are we going to have our family adventures? When are we doing our own thing? When are we staying home? When are we going to the zoo? If you've got younger kids, when are their play dates or things like that? So having some kind of a weekly schedule can really, really help with that structure. And then even down to the daily schedule. And again, I think this is helpful for kids of any age, especially for the younger kids. If you're building in this idea of, when morning snack is, when lunch is, when afternoon snack is, when dinner is, and the kinds of things that are happening in between. If you have a whiteboard with like just the times of the day on there, or even just like breakfast, midday snack, lunch, midday snack, and then whatever little blanks for things that can be happening, then you can talk with your kids at the beginning of the day, just like they would do in their preschool or in their daycare or in their early elementary school. You know, this is what's going to happen. We're going to spend some time outside while the weather's not too hot. Then we're going to have a snack. Then we're going to come in and we're going to do a craft. Then you might have some time on your screens. Then we're going to have lunch, you know, so map it out for them a little bit. It doesn't have to be 100%. This is not about having every 15-minute spot figured out, but the clearer you can get, the better it is for everybody. The other really nice thing about having it written down is that it helps you to be less bossy. Less directive is actually what I put on the slide, and that's probably a nicer way to say it. So instead of having people come to you and say, when's snack? What time is snack? Or what do we have to do today? Or how come I can't have any more screen time? Or why do I have to go outside now? Or when is my friend coming over? You can say, what does the calendar say? It's all on there. We talked about it this morning, or we talked about it, you know, a few days ago. If you've got older kids, you might be talking about it once a week and just mapping it out. So having things written down means that you don't have to be the person that's taking all the responsibility, and you can have your kids take on more responsibility. And if you've got young kids who can't be reading yet, you can be doing this with pictures. Not who can't be reading yet, who aren't yet reading. You can be doing this with pictures. So please remember that some structure is really, really important. Okay, and so yeah, what does the calendar say is a great way to be less directive. Or the calendar says it's time to do X. So you can also blame things on the calendar instead of making it all about mom says this or dad says this. Okay, here's the second summer thing. I'm bored. We often will hear this, I'm bored, no matter how old your kids are. And so the first question is, what does it mean? What does I'm bored mean? I'm bored means I need you to take control, or I want to spend time with you, or can you please come and solve my problem for me, parent? And sometimes it's said with the words, I'm bored. Sometimes it's said by pulling the hair of the sibling that they're playing with, because then you're going to come in from whatever you were doing to get involved and entertain them for a while. So that's really what it means. So what can you do about it? Well, I can talk to you a little bit. I'd love to just make some suggestions about what you can do about it proactively, and then what you can do about it in the heat of the moment. So proactively, what you can do is at the beginning of the summer, or even now when you're hanging out with your kids, or you feel like you need something to do, start to build some lists. And those lists are things like, you could build a what do we want to do this summer list. And so you could start making a list of all the things that sound like really fun, maybe going to Heritage Park, or maybe you want to go and explore one new playground every week. Maybe there's some people that you really, really want to have play dates with. Maybe there are some recipes that your kids want to try. Depending on the ages of your kids, these are all kind of, what do we want to do? So you can put those on a list. And that can really help you when you're planning out your calendar, your week. But it can also help you, the next list that I'm going to talk about is one for when your kids are bored, which is the I'm bored list, or the what can I do list. And this is a list of things that your kids can do on their own. So this is about making a big long list, and it could be things like making a puzzle, coloring, building with Lego, painting the side of the house with water, or painting the fence with water. If you've got really little kids, that's a great activity. Chalk drawing on the sidewalk, reading a book, putting on a book, an audio book for your kids to flip through their books with as they're doing that. Reading with grandma and grandpa, something that we were talking about last week, just so many things that this could be. But we make these lists and we have them so that when our child comes to us and says, I'm bored, I don't know what to do, you can say, thanks for letting me know. We made a list for that. I'm just finishing up what I'm doing. And in 2 minutes, let's put the timer on. In 2 minutes, when the timer goes off, I will come and see what you decided, but you go check your list. And again, this list can be with pictures. You could go around when you're making this list, you could take a photo. I'm saying this because I'm old, but you could take your phone and take photos of all the things and put them on a big piece of paper of the possible things that your child could do. It could be songs to sing. It could be songs to listen to or recordings to listen to, songs to dance to. There are so many choices. Having this list ahead of time can be super helpful. And I'm talking about what young kids can do, but I really think this is a good list for our older kids too, because they're going to want to go to screens as their number one boredom activity. And there's a possibility that you're going to be putting some time limit on screens. And so again, having this list of other things they can do is a really, really great way to handle it. So you're going to come back. I know you can figure something out. We've made that list. Let's figure it out. Number 3, get clear upfront about the things that are important for you this summer. So those could be things like how much time on technology every day and in what kind of amounts. So is it 4 hours altogether? If you're saying 4 hours a day, is it 4 hours altogether, or is it an hour at a time for 4 different times? How much time outside every day? What chores need to be done each day? Time for your kids to be quiet, time for your kids to be active, cooking together, like whatever it is, get really clear and get really clear about the things you're going to say no to. And the reason I say this is because one of my number one complaints that I hear from my clients during the summer when their kids are home a lot is that they find that they're just saying no all the time. No, you can't do that. No, I said no. Why are you asking me again? I said no. If you get really clear on the key things that you're going to say no to, then everything else can become a yes when or a maybe. And then you don't have to be so crabby and no-ish all the time. You can know the things that you're going to say no to. And then the rest of them, you can be like, maybe talk to me about this. Or let's say your kid comes to you and they're like, I really want to play that game. And they've had their time on screens and there's other stuff to be done. You can like, and obviously for a 15-year-old, you probably wouldn't do this, or a 13-year-old. Maybe you would do it for a 13-year-old, but for the 8-year-olds and the younger kids, I really, really want to do this. Please, I've got to get on there. I've got to watch this. I've got to do this. Let's make a note that that's what you want to do. You totally can watch it tomorrow during your screen time. So that's what a yes when looks like, because it's yes, you can do this when you next have screen time and you have no more screen time today. Let's go do something else. What are you going to do next? Let's get outside. Let's go and do something else. And so getting clear on the things that you need happening, when you need them happening, the clearer you can be about it is so helpful, because as Brene Brown says, clear is kind, unclear is unkind. So when we know, we can stick to our decisions, and our kids know they don't need to whine and wear us down from our no to a maybe to a yes, because they know that our no's mean no, because we're only saying no on the things that are really critical. Okay, the next tip is this question that I get a lot. We've got siblings at home. Should they play together or should they be apart? The answer is yes, they should. They should have time together if they can. But when this horrible phase happens and when they start pushing and pulling at each other before they start doing that, they also need to have scheduled time apart every day, and possibly multiple times a day. Build it into the schedule. Have times where you can be with them, you can be supervising, you can know that you're going to have them playing together and you're going to be involved or you're going to be close by. And then also have times where they're going to have quiet time. They might be each in their rooms for part of that time. And so they're a little bit separated from each other. Once they're separated from each other, they will want to be together again, and then they will come back together again. So that can work really, really nicely. And then the last thing that I'll just say about that is that if you have actually, it's interesting that you're both on this call, but if you have a tween or a young teenager in your neighborhood who might be looking to make a little bit of extra money this summer, this is a great thing for them because they have the ability to come over. They might not be babysitting age yet, but it might be that you can hire that tween to come to your home. They can play with one of your kids or two of your kids, and you can spend time with the other one. So just trading off can be a really great thing. And for those of you who have those teenagers who maybe aren't ready to babysit yet, but could really use a little bit of spare money, that might be something that they go around to the neighbors and just say, I'm available to play with your young child in your home while you're there for a piece of time, to create that opportunity for the kids to be a little bit separated, to create some one-on-one time for a parent and a child while the other child is being looked after. And then the last thing that I have is this new service that I've developed. So tip number 5 is have help at your fingertips. And this new service that I've developed, Parent Mentor Now, is a subscription program that you can text me your parenting questions, and within 24 hours, I will send you back an answer to your question. So very much like the stuff that we were talking about at the beginning of the day, if there's a thought that's frustrating you, if there's a behavior that's frustrating you by your child, and you're not really sure what to do and you feel like you're stuck in that same place, these are the kinds of ways that my clients who are using the subscription are using it. And I know some of you who are watching this call are using this service, and these are the kinds of things that we're talking about, these little things that happen in the day, new language that you can use with your kids, new kind of boundaries you can put in place when things come up that you don't necessarily want to book a full coaching session for, but you can ask a quick question and get an answer back quite quickly. So you can find this subscription at parentmentornow.com. And in fact, if you use this code, and this code here that I'm sharing with you, this Boost 12, will get you 12% off of anything on the site. So if you want to book my bigger coaching packages, you can get that 12% discount on the coaching packages. If you want to buy my book, you can get the discount on the book. If you want to buy any of those products, you can get that discount. So let's just come into this very last slide. I've just got a few minutes left here, but I'm curious to know, what am I missing? Are there any questions? And maybe I'll just invite you to unmute if you have any questions about any of this information that I've shared this evening. Go ahead.
My question is if everybody else is as blowout as myself, because something that I found as well is it's not just for dealing with kids, it's dealing with your own stuff as well. You have a list of stuff in your structure. If you are upset, I'm upset, it's I have a problem that I haven't resolved, or I don't have a plan for a problem that I haven't resolved. Man, it's I can apply it for my kids and myself as well.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so
Yeah,
glad.
and it's so good. And 2 quick things that I want to share with you. It's
Sure.
my wife Lily, she's with me here.
Yes.
She's the genius, and something that I learned from her, or we started to apply with the kids, is in terms of siblings, when they're fighting for something, or they're saying, "Oh, Dad, I want to get oh, why Mariana got a T-shirt? I want to get a T-shirt." Our answer is always saying, "You know what is the only thing that you have the same? The only thing here that you have the same for both, that we have the same for both, is love. Anything else, nothing else, it's the same. Only love. The same unconditional love for you is the same unconditional love for you. So don't gambling. No, don't
Compare.
no, don't compare, or don't I mean, ask for something that you don't have or you don't need it, right? And
Right. Yeah.
and the other thing that it's I forgot. Anyways, no, I forgot. That was the other thing that I want to
Okay.
share. But
Well,
yeah,
thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. So
Yeah.
great. That goes along very much with as you know, one of the things I'm sure I've talked about this before, that we don't give the same thing to each child. We meet each child's needs uniquely. So we give them what they need, and we give that love to them in way and give them the support that they need, even though they're different kids. We're going to give them different
Yeah.
things. Yeah, thank you for that. So the
No.
last thing that I will just share before I leave this call, because we're right here at 9 o'clock, is if you know someone that could use my help, please tell them about me. Send them a little note. I'm going to send the replay of this presentation tonight. And if you know someone who could benefit from it, please send them the replay. Like, please just forward them the email that I'm sending to you, because I'm a small local business. And if you think that I'm helpful, then when someone hears that from you, they trust you because they know you. So if you're having a bad experience with me, please tell me. But if you like what I'm doing, if you think that there's value here, please let people know, and they're welcome to use that code as well. That Boost 12 code is going to be available for this week only. And again, I'll send it as a reminder with the follow-up email with the recording. So that's really what I had to share with you. I'm going to be letting other people know about my programs this week on Instagram. If you follow me on Instagram, please share that as well. And thanks very much for coming tonight. There will be other workshops coming up in the future. So looking forward to seeing you then. So thanks for being here tonight, everybody, and have a great night.
Thank you, Julie. You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.